Hello, this is Gwen again. Today is Friday, May the 19th, 2017, and the time is about 1:25 p.m. This is part of my Next Step series as well as Dead Weight series and some of the things that we need to discuss. But this one is called Blacks in the Workplace, and it's mostly regarding next steps more than dead weight. And I've got an outline here, but I'm going to try to keep it short as well. So let's see if we can get started. So, lem- so first, if you hear me clicking, that's because I got a mouse and I'm on the computer and I'm looking at a Word document, and the title is Blacks in the Workplace. The first part of it is that we do need jobs, but we have to deal with white supremacist traps and how not to fall into the traps. That's what's going to be the main focus on this one. Yeah, although we do have a high unemployment rate, some of us do have jobs and we need them. And so I'm going to discuss how to make your work life a little bit easier because you're going to be dealing with white supremacists all through your job. If you're working at a job, no matter where at in the country, there are white people all around you. And right now, I would suspect every one of them as being a white supremacist or a white supremacist sympathizer. Even if they're some of the sweetest people in the world right now, they're not doing their best to help black people. And even some of the ones that want to do their best, they can't help black people because they, as as Tariq would say, they're on code. And part of that white code is that they will give any sympathizer or somebody who's not on code a very hard time. White people are unmerciful to other white people who aren't on code. So even if they wanted to help you, they can't really. They have to sneak to do it because it's detrimental to them if they did help you. Other people who are white want to help, but they won't step forward until they see evidence of black people helping themselves, which is a catch 22 because after we're starting to help ourselves, you in our way now because we don't need you to help us. So you in the way, and we suspect you of being agent sympathizer. So in the workplace, you have to work to have your job to bring home money for your family. You're not in a business all your own, or you're not unemployed. You're just trying to be a productive member of society. Unfortunately, with white people, they try to set traps for you and get you unemployed. I mean, I know a lady right now. There was a young white lady, and there's her black co-worker. And here's what happened. The young white lady was always antagonistic toward this black coworker, just saying stupid stuff. She wasn't saying racial things, but even though everybody who's black, who's been around white people, know when they see a racial code, even though they haven't said a racial word. Okay, this had been going on for some time, and the supervisor knew about it as well as the coworkers. One day, they were face to face saying mean words to each other, and the white girl told her, said a cuss word to her and told her to F herself or something, and the black lady hauled off and slapped her. The black lady got fired because she was violent, and the white lady got suspended. But eh, but when you get suspended, you still got your job. The black lady did not have a job. Thing is, the supervisor knew about it, so the supervisor got talked to, and all of that dynamics panned out in the end for them. But the black lady still lost her job. She got baited until she finally hauled off and did something that would get you immediately fired. So the white lady sacrificed a few days of suspension, and so did the supervisor, because the supervisor could have nipped that stuff in the bud a long time ago, but the supervisor was on code. Everybody, and it was relayed to me third hand what happened, and that's how I know that the co-workers knew about it too. about the long antagonistic relationship and nobody did nothing, and because they told me about it. They told me about it third hand, and everybody that was telling me about it knew about it. They had to know about it to tell me about it. Okay, so I'm saying that they've got 1,000 little traps to put you into and bait you to fall down and get caught up in the crap, and you're in trouble. Countless people that you work with that are black right now are in trouble because they were running their mouth to white people, cussing them out and all this stuff. This is what this video, I mean, this recording is about, is how not to fall into those traps. I recently retired and I had a wonderful send off. People, I didn't want a real retirement party, but people came down from all over the building to say goodbye to me. And it was one of the best send offs. I mean, my coworkers that sat next to me were amazed at how many people came to wish me well. And I appreciate it because that was a good send off. So, what I'm saying that for is to tell you that I had a good reputation at work. And some of this is going to tell you how to maintain that and still focus on your black self. Now, if you listen to my other videos, other videos and audios, you know how I think because I've already told you. But I didn't bring any of that into the workplace because it wasn't appropriate for the workplace. The people who hired me did not sign on for me to put out my black protection agenda. They hired me to do a job. That's what I signed on for, and that's what I focused on doing, was my job, what I was told to do, what I agreed to do. Now, when you do have a job, everybody that's working there, or I don't know if you thought about it or not this way, but when you do have a job, you've got to decide how far of a line you're willing to cross or how far you're going to go for the sake of your job. Long ago, when I was in the military and I suspected one of my commanders of being willing to do nefarious things, illegal things, mean things, skirt the books because some of her commanders might have asked her to. And I told her, I said, don't let me see you doing nothing wrong because I'm not going to be a part of it. So they never let me see them do nothing wrong because they knew I wasn't going to be a part of it. And they also knew that I would take steps to make it stop. Because I didn't play that. You do your job the legitimate way that you're supposed to. That's what you signed on for. That's what you agreed to. So on this one, let me give you my outline. Basically is we need our jobs, but we have to deal with white supremacist steps. Don't fall into this trap. White supremacist knows all the racial information already. Honor your commitment to perform the day's work and understand that these aren't really your friends. So let me focus on um, the first part. When you when I talk about you needing your jobs and white supremacist traps, the biggest thing is for you not to fall into the trap. And among the traps is calling out racism on the job. That's going to sound weird and counterintuitive, but I never called out racism on the job. I called it everything else. Like when somebody does something that's obviously racist, I don't bring up race. I do not bring up race. They be trying to bait me and twist me and maneuver me into saying the word race. I don't let them. I never let them. Then finally, when they done figured out all the angles ran out of angles trying to trip me into saying it, they call it. Really, they say, well, maybe it's race. And even then I denied. I said, no, I don't think he's like it. I talk to him all the time. I don't think he's a racist. And then they'll say something like, you'll be surprised. No, I don't know about that. All I know is that he did this action against that person and that needs to stop. And I win my argument because they call out racism. I don't. And I'm laughing because I'm laughing about times when I'm looking at their faces, they trying to maneuver me into saying the word race because they would describe the scenario and like wait in anticipation for me to say the word race, and I don't. I just focus on the behavior, focus on the action. But if, but I'm going to give you an example of a good person who talks about race when he's talking about it. You ever seen Tariq Nasheed talk to a white supremacist about race? It is a masterwork. Few people can do that though, but they should. But my method was when I'm on the job working for somebody, I don't call it. I let them call it. And then I still give a token denial of it happening because like as if I think better of that person than them doing that. Okay. So one of the best things I'm gonna talk about Tariq Nasheed again. One of the best times I've seen that, and one of the earliest that I was sitting there with my mouth open was him, and I think he was in England, Birmingham, England, or somewhere, talking to one of the commentators, and he was talking about race like it was the weather, and he was saying all kind of stuff about white supremacists, and he was saying it in a calm professional manner that the man couldn't even pretend to be outraged because he was saying it so politely, so calmly. If you're going to discuss race, use that method. But in day-to-day things, I am like that. I just mess with people because I'm already thinking about 6 or 7 steps ahead of you. When you walking up to me, if you're a white person with a cup of coffee in your hand, I know you got some bullshit coming at me. So I'm thinking all kind of methods to thwart you at your nonsense, and I'm seeing you coming. So I'm laying traps for you, if anything. So I never called out racism on the job. I let them do it. And I didn't ever call out sexism on the job. I let them do it. Because whenever you call in, whatever action they did was an action that was illegal anyway. So you never had to really say the word race. All you're doing is setting them up to deny it because you can't really look inside of their mind as they're talking. Even though they did something that's obviously what you would consider racist, and it's clear, you're not inside their head. So if they say that they're not racist, then even though the evidence is clear that they are, you don't have a leg to stand on because you're not inside their head. But if you focus on the behavior that they did, like excuse me, not treating employee A as the same as employee B when they are have identical circumstances, then you can just call disparate treatment. If they consistently treat a group of employees A and a group of employees B differently under the same conditions and circumstances, then you call out disparate treatment. And then, even though employee A is one race and employee B is another race, don't bring up race. Let the person who's witnessing it bring up race. You dodge the word race. Just dodge it. Mess with them. Dodge it. Don't let them bait you into it. And just watch them try to maneuver you. And then you come back to behavior. I don't, and one of the things I said was, I don't know why they're treating these people differently, but I do know it needs to stop because it's disparate treatment from this person versus that person under the same circumstances. So we need to fix that. So, and then you have to figure out what to do about that. So, let them play with that. Now, about falling into the trap. Sometimes your coworkers that are white will try to bait you into conversations about race. I'm here to tell you that this has been done for so long. Back in the 70s, I started having conversations with white people about race. And even if they are a white supremacist, and I can tell you exactly how long it takes for them to turn around. Because you'll win your argument because you're right. You'll win the whole conversation. But it takes 2.5 hours talking to an individual for them to turn around. 2.5 hours approximately. Sometimes three, sometimes an hour, 25 minutes, but approximately 2.5 hours per person. And it takes them less than 5 minutes to turn back around or get re-indoctrinated. I was having these conversations since the early 70s and then in the 80s and then the early part of the 90s. About 1993 or so, I said, wait a minute. Wait a minute. This has been going on a long time and they still ain't got it. They still aren't passing it on. And that's when I stopped because I realized it was just a game to them. I stopped. I really did. I stopped. It's just a game to them. It's just something to take up your time and get you to focus on them for a while. They're baiting you, and even though it's wonderful and enlightening, and you're teaching them, they are messing with you. They're messing with you. The reason why I caught on is because I had been having that conversation for 20 something years, word for word, line by line, saying the same things almost the same way, same questions, almost the same exact cadence and diction. Okay? That's a game. If that ain't on code, that's on code. I don't know what it is if it ain't on code. So they are designing that to take up your time and take up your energy and take up your focus. And nothing is better to them than to get you to vent and fuss about race. And after you're venting, you're tired and going on home instead of actually doing something. So, if you're at work and you're on your coffee break or whatever, and y'all gonna have that dialogue about race, I'm gonna tell you it's a dead end because it's been tried. It was tried for 25 years since the 60s, and we thought we had them on track. That's why the civil rights movement died down. Was because they were doing civil rights things and we were having that dialogue and we thought that we were finished because we did all the things we were supposed to be wanting to do. But the civil rights movement was actually a dead end because everything that they did positive, they can easily reverse and undo. That's why I'm here now because I don't want us susceptible to what I call their mood swings. One day they're feeling liberal and generous, next day they feel conservative and hateful. I don't want our food supply and our housing money and health care dependent on their mood swings. So we have to be able to build our own stability and our own resources so that we don't have to depend on them and whatever they think. That's why I'm here. So all that dialogue about race is a dead end. I'm just saying, save yourself some time and don't bother. We tried that. There isn't a word you got to say to them about race that they haven't already heard. They have heard it all. They know it all. They're messing with you. You don't have no new information for them. They're pretending like they don't know, but they don't. They do. They do know. They do know. Okay. So save yourself some anguish and time. Next thing is that on in those conversation about race, understand that everything you say out your mouth can be construed and sent to human resources. People online are in various talks that we see on YouTube in various formats are telling you that you're being set up, and it's true. Black people get set up all the time when they're running their mouth about civil rights, racial issues, everything. Whatever you saying is going to be misconstrued and twisted and then put down in human resources. It's going to be documented. Even despite everybody in that room saying something similar, if not worse, if they're white, it's not going to be paid attention to. You say two words, it's going to be magnified. Don't let stuff like that come out your mouth. Now, this is the dead weight part of it I'm going to talk about. We got people that are in the workplace that are black who ain't got sense enough to shut up. they want everybody to see how well they raise hell. So they start, well, I'm not going to say start, but they go off, they explode, shout, cussing them out. Gotta let them know what you think. Saying these fancy, nice cuss word phrases and paragraphs. Everything they said is a dead end. In fact, even if they're going off, every little incident is being documented and they're being set up to be fired. If you get caught up with them, you're also suspect. And that's not your purpose for being there. When I was a little girl, I watched all of my family members on a Friday night when everybody gets kind of high and drunk and lively and don't have to go to work the next day. They would spend and it wasn't that often, but they would spend an afternoon on Friday evening raising hell with each other. But nothing actually effectively got done. They did some cussing and fussing and shouting and stomping. Might even have a fight or two, a physical fight or two. But the things that they were fussing about weren't accomplished. It wasn't an effective tool to get nothing done. And as I was a little girl, I was assessing that because they would be fighting and fussing about the same thing every 2 weeks, or the same actions they didn't like every 2 weeks. The same action or the same things would be still going on because nothing about fussing changed anything. But what I realized was if I wanted to actually change something, I've got to outline me a plan and go at it step by step. Okay, so if you want a change of something at work, you got to sit down, silently outline a plan, and then go at being a success at achieving it, going step by step about how to get to this next goal. You want a promotion, and I don't blame you, then you outline yourself a plan. And by the time you got your plan outlined, if they don't promote you, then you can go at them on whatever grounds you want to, because you will be clearly the best qualified for it. Okay? So that's what I mean by don't get caught up in the raising hell and fussing. Outline yourself a plan and get results. Okay? So, now more about don't fall into the trap. Instead, when I was at work, I focused on the job and I stayed focused at it. When I show up at a job, I came here to do work. I knew that people were in cliques and cliques and sorry, groups and stuff. I didn't do that. I didn't fall into it. They did all kind of stuff, but I didn't let them draw me in. I stayed focused on the work. When somebody white tried to draw me into something that I knew was going to lead to something that's going to be negative and nefarious, I turned that conversation around back to work. Okay, so like even gossip, I didn't mess with people that did a lot of gossip because I knew, as I said, I think ahead of what you're doing. I knew that gossip circulates. Gossip on this person one day is somebody else the next day, and eventually it's going to get back to you. But if you're out of the loop on that, you're almost immune to it because they know you don't play in it. So that's a different thing. Okay, I'm back. I had to stop and hack and cough, and then I made some lemon water, and because my voice is going. Actually, so I was talking about gossiping and joining cliques and things, and I would say don't do either one of them. But like with cliques, the roles change, and who's in one day is out the next day, and vice versa. Plus, you're categorized. So yeah, be friendly with everybody and go at that, and again focus on the work because that's going to be your saving. That's going to be your savior, is the work itself. because it'll keep you out of trouble if you turn yourself around and focus on moving your hands and doing the job that you're supposed to be doing. Now, with gossip, well, gossip, um, not only don't gossip, but don't take sides. Again, focus on your work. One of the things I did was wear headphones, and I don't even have my player on sometimes, but if I got those headphones in my ears, nobody will bother me. But I do listen to everything, but I don't talk. So I know what's going on because I'm aware of my surroundings and some of the things people say, but they don't know that I know because I didn't talk and I didn't join because I didn't want to be caught up in it. That's so much stuff there's so much potential for problems. One of the jobs that I had was when I was a floor manager for because I'm a federal government worker, and I was a floor manager for the Census Bureau. And when we got our people on board, got our new staff members, I was, in my case, over about 45 people, about 40 workers who ran the machines, and two two under supervisors, two supervisors that were under me, and three lead clerks who were under them. And what I did was tell them about how it worked. And among the things I told them was not to, and I did it as a suggestion. I said, when you go out there and you go on your lunch breaks and things, people are going to try to draw you into their cliques and their groups, and I'm going to suggest that you all don't join. Just be nice to everybody because the roles change as you go. Who's going to be the supervisor this week might be the underling next week, and the person who's the underling might be the supervisor. All of our roles change as the projects change. So if you're going to be so if you make enemies in this term, that might be your sixth supervisor next term. So avoid the cliques and avoid the gossip and the drama. And I can't stress enough how much more peaceful your job will be. And lo and behold, a few months later, when something was going on, I was thanked for giving them that advice. They said that was some of the best advice they could have got because they went right out there and saw what I was meant, and they saw the results. They saw people who did join things and saw the ones that didn't. And everybody in my floor who got my advice stayed out of the trouble. They stayed out of the they stayed above all the fray because it was there, the drama and all of that. And they were grateful for having a chance to stay out of that. And I'm saying this to you. Stay out of that. Avoid the cliques. Avoid all of that drama. Stay above it and focus on doing your work. I can't I can give you another example. I had a cousin who was working at a hospital. Two of the nurse supervisors, I think they were supervisors, they were in a dispute. Everybody on the floor chose sides, and she was discussing it with me and my aunt, her mother. And I said, don't take sides, don't say nothing, don't gossip, don't let them pull you in. If they try to pull you in, just turn around and tell them you got to go to work and focus on your work. Don't let them pull you in that. Stay out of it. Don't choose sides. Don't say nothing. Be nice and polite to everybody. Don't let them pull you in. And her mother, co-signed that and said, and we both emphasized the points to her. And she did follow that advice. When it was all said and done and a victor was chosen, among the things that was written on her evaluation at the end of the year was how she stayed above it and it was ever grateful that she was above it. And they gave a long list of things that were wonderful about her. And even as other people changed, changed jobs, she was always held in high esteem on that floor because she focused on the work rather than the personalities and the drama. She was above it, and both of the ladies appreciated her being above it. So she made basically was in good standing with both of them, plus the other people on the floor and the patients. Okay, so that was a positive about staying above the fray. And I'm saying to you, do that. You'll find that your work life is a lot easier. Now, the people that I want to call dead weight won't do that because they like the drama and they like all the controversy. And we're going to be letting them purge themselves out anyway because they are basically a dead end kind of folk. When we get ready for implementation of something that's got a lot of noise, we'll call on or let the dead weight noisemakers who like the drama and action know about it. But until then, you can't expect much out of them because they're not there to effectively make a change or do work. They're there for the drama and the controversy, the noise and the action. They're not cerebral, sit down and plan it out kind of folk. They want to jump around and make noise. And that has its place, but it not have doesn't have its place when it's time to implement changes and do work. So I'm saying, mind your own business, don't join cliques, don't gossip, and do focus on work. Now, when you do focus on work, do let everyone know that you aren't really a pushover, but do avoid the dramatics. One job I started and I was on a new floor, and one of the ladies next to me said, "Oh, now, oh, you're in this position. You're the what you call it now." Well, the guy that was that before, he refilled the paper machine. I said, "Oh, y'all made him do that. Oh, that's bad. Y'all shouldn't have done that." I basically, what did I say? I forgot how I put that. Oh, y'all made him do that. Why y'all do that to him? That was silly. He's silly, you know. And I said, yeah, but I let her know that I ain't filling up the paper machine. And she wound up saying, it's nothing but love up here because I came off kind of stern, but I was polite. And she just said, it's nothing but love up here, letting me know she was just playing with me. That's fine. Yeah, okay, sure. And she was a black female. We became pretty good friends later. But I wasn't gonna be no pushover, and you wasn't gonna have me filling no damn machine or doing no damn stupid stuff, cause I ain't gonna do that. So you gotta let them know you're not a pushover, but just stay out of their business, and they'll stay out of yours. Now, if you do come to a place where there is a personal dispute, then you need to have whatever comeback you have in front of a third party, most likely your supervisor. If there's two supervisors involved, like they have a supervisor and you have one, then y'all need to have your dispute, whatever you got to say, in front of the third person, the both of y'all supervisors. Like if somebody's saying A and you saying B, and y'all are in dispute about it, you need to have a private witness conversation in front of your supervisors. One day a lady said something to me that was sort of hostile, and I finished, doing what I was doing, and then waited for her to finish talking politely. And I said, no, I'm going to do it this way. And if you got anything else to say about it, we'll say it in front of so and so, the supervisor. I don't have nothing else to say to it. If you want to talk about it, we'll talk about it in front of the supervisor. And then I said, "Do you have anything else you need to say?" And she says, "No, I ain't got nothing. You ain't got to." She says, "No, I ain't got nothing to say, but you won't have to be a jerk about it." I said, "Do you want to talk in front of the supervisor?" And that was it. And she said she didn't, and then I walked away. And that was a young white girl. She was saying something smart, and I didn't want to get into a dispute on the floor because I wouldn't. But if she does have something to say, then you need to say it in front of the supervisor. One day, at another job I had in another position, still federal, still at the same federal agency, but in another workplace. And this young lady, who was a white female, had done something very, very disrespectful to her manager who wasn't there, but she had done it behind her manager's back. And well, actually, we were in a training room, and the manager was a trainer. And the trainer had to go someplace, so she left us in the care of another person in another part of the building. And meanwhile, this young lady said things about the training and all of that behind the trainer's back, and she was saying it so loud that people all over the floor could hear it. So naturally, when the trainer got back and we're in the training room, this was called into question. I said a few things, and then I was getting ready to say something else, because we were all talking. And I was getting ready to say something else. I had the floor right then. And then she turned to me and screamed and shouted and cussed at me and talking about you. And then I calmly said, because I looked at her and I was almost laughing to myself, but I kept a straight face. And I looked at her and said, I'm sorry that you feel the need to yell and curse at me. I truly wish that you would stop. Now, right then, we both knew I had her because that's right there in our table of penalties at the union, in our union, in federal guidelines, that you don't do that to other workers. You don't curse at them and yell at them because that's really a violation and you could get suspended. But we both knew I had her because she did yell and scream at me, and I did not yell and scream at her back. If I had, then we both would have been under the violations. But that's not going to be what I would do. I don't operate like that because I'm out of her league. She's not in my league. And so I said, so I apologized to her for feeling the need to yell and scream at me. And I did point out that I wish that she would stop. And then I proceeded to tell her my position on what I had to say. And I said, I'm sorry that you think I alluded to something. I made a mistake. I did not mean to allude. I meant to say it explicitly. So here's what da 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 da. And I said what I had to say explicitly. And then after I finished saying it, and looked at the uh, moderator or the trainer and said, that's all I got on mine. That's all I got. So, and then I looked at that, said that, and then looked at the other people to see who else was going to talk next. Because I was done. And I said what I had to say. And I said a lot of nasty stuff, but I didn't curse, didn't shout. And it was polite. And said in a polite way, even with a half smile, because I was being polite. The room was stunned to silence because they had to listen to that, and they were stunned for about a beat or two, and then the next person spoke up, because the person I looked at that looked like they were going to speak before I said what I had to say. I looked back at them and essentially giving them the floor. Okay, so you don't have to act a fool when they act a fool. Not if you're intellectual and can keep up with them and say your stuff without acting a fool. But that's a trait. I would suggest you get it. Okay, so when they bait you, you don't have to fall for it. You can see them coming. And so I'm going to tell you, I'm going to put you on notice. They coming. So look at them and then hone up your vocabulary game and your skills at not being dramatic, and then say everything you got to say without being excited or dramatic or loud or impolite. Okay? You can say, I feel strongly that X, Y, and Z. One time a young man wrote, and he did something stupid, and I felt like he was being a butt to me. And so this time he was um, our senior person that's on our position. He's a step below the supervisor of the team. I was on the team, then they had a senior team member, and then the supervisor. And he said something I thought was condescending and negative. And so instead of me cussing him out like I wanted to, or I really wanted to hurt him, but you're not supposed to hurt people. So I wrote my supervisor an email, and I said he is making, and I told him what happened, and then I said down there, he is making me very, very, very angry. My supervisor was scared to even talk to me because he knew I was mad. He said he waited a few hours before he even said anything because he wanted me to calm down. He could tell I was mad. He could tell I was hot. The guy came and apologized and said, "Okay, what do I need to do?" Basically said, "What do I need to do?" Because I was mad. And there wasn't a cuss word on there. There wasn't a shouted word. That was just the word very, very, very angry because I was very, very, very angry. And they resolved that for me. But they could tell by my basic tone where I stood. So you can get your anger across without losing it. And that's all. That's all about that. Now, so I talked about personal disputes and third party, and about talking about them baiting you about how white supremacists know all the racial information. You don't have to fall for them with that long conversation that they want you to have while they bait you, because they're trying to build a case for you to be a racist. You understand? When you talk about race to them, you become the racist as far as they're concerned, and as far as HR is going to be concerned, because they're going to couch it in that way. Everybody in the room could be talking about race, but if you mention it as a black person, then you the racist. Or they got you by the balls, and they can pull that card anytime they want to. I'm saying don't let them bait you, and focus on the behavior only for now. Okay, because even if they're racist, even if it's a racist person, unless they call the N word or some kind of racial slander, I would even say something like this: they're using racial slangs for they're using racial slangs in berating this person, and that's inappropriate for the workplace. And I wouldn't mention what race. I make somebody else say it. They're using derogatory terms in the workplace, and that's inappropriate. And I would might even cite the chapter and verse where it's inappropriate under these laws, under this law and that law and that law, and that's what's inappropriate use of the language in this workplace because of X, Y, and Z. And then somebody else is going to ask you what they said, and then you can put it down in writing or say it. I would put it in writing. In fact, I will put just about everything in writing and send emails. If you but do send emails that you can stand behind in front of a court of law. Essentially, not that it's going to go to a court of law, but you got to be above reproach in how you handle that. So get your vocabulary game up, get your calm mind up, because you're in a war situation. So you have to use the tools for the war. You can't go with sticks and stones when you're in a pen and paper and keyboard war. Two different weapons. If you're in a war of words, you got to use words, and you got to use them wisely. If you're in a war of sticks and stones and knives and guns, that's the weapon for that war. Don't confuse them, because you will lose the war. You can't bring cuss words to a word war. That's defeating you. Those aren't the words. Those are the words that your enemy uses against you. So you got to up your game in this war of words when you're in the workplace, because that is a war of words. Now, if somebody puts their hands on you, go off. And even though you might get fired, you got to be make that worth your while if you're going to get fired after you beat the hell out of them, because as soon as you hit them or beat them, they go into victim mode. But if they hit and beat you, then they're the victor, and they may or may not get fired. So if they put their hands on you, that's one thing. In fact, if you think they can beat you up and they do put their hands on you, you go into victim mode and get them fired. Even if they hit you, barely hit you, you just fall all down. Go to the hospital with a neck brace. But yeah, putting your hands on you, that changes everything. And I'm talking about if you turn it around to walk away and they pull you or touch you, you can turn back with a big old left hook or a right hook. Because when they put their hand on you, that changes everything. Whole different thing. You do not have to take a butt whooping when somebody put their hands on you. No matter. No, hell no. Okay. Now, finally, is this part. Honor your commitment to perform an honest day's work. When you go to work, and you say that you're going to take this job, then do it. Focus on doing your job. If you don't want to do your job, then you stop working there. But you need to do your job. They hired you to do a job, you do the job. You say you're going to do the job, you do the job. Don't bullshit. Don't bulljive. Do the job. Even if it's for a white supremacist and you can't stand them, you show up and you do your job. Because that's what you said you're going to do. I used to work for a lady I couldn't stand. And then I had to talk to myself. And I said, no matter what I think of her, I'm still obligated to do my job. No matter what I think of her. And unfortunately, part of my job was making her look good because she was my supervisor. So I had to do my part to do my job well. And when I do my job well, things were running smoothly. Then she looks good. I could smack her, and I'm rolling my eyes right now, knowing that, but I still had to talk to myself and understand and make me get the strength to do my job because that was my job. So I understand how you feel when you don't want to do your job for something or somebody you can't stand, but you're still obligated to do the job. And if you don't want to do it, then you need to do something else. Finally, it's this part here. Even though you're sitting down at lunch and you're sitting down in the break room and you're all passing around coffee cups and doing all of these little things you do as coworkers, understand at the end of the day, these are not really your friends. These are your coworkers and associates. I'd even go so far as to say that the black people that you work with are your associates. Unless you know them inside and out, and you probably knew them and known them before you both started working there, I wouldn't look at them as my extreme friends until I know them well. You don't know who's a coon and who isn't. You don't know where they stand on political positions, because even though you might be speaking from your heart to them and thinking your conversation confidential, you don't know where that's going to go and who's going to have it, because as soon as it comes out your mouth, it's out of your control. There is no reason for you to tell your heart of heart to your coworkers. Most of my coworkers will be surprised to know my political position, because my political positions are not appropriate to the workplace. I need to know my political position, and I need to be able to do what I need to do, but I ain't gonna do it at the workplace, because nothing I do at that workplace is gonna stop or help white supremacy. Nothing I'm doing there. Now, when I come home and put on my riot gear and whatever and do whatever I'm going to do, that's a different story. But I wasn't hired to do that. I ain't going to hurt nobody black at the workplace, but I am going to do my job. And my job was to help all kind of people. And I'll do that, and I'll do it well. Because I'm not going to dishonor my commitment to somebody that I told I was going to do an honest day's work to. But I don't consider the white people there friends because I don't trust them. And I don't care if they are nice people, because white supremacy still exists. And until it's no longer exists, and the rest of the steps white people have to take, I can't consider them their friends or even friends of the planet. They are doing 1,000 miles worth of nasty junk to this planet. And until they turn around all of that negative stuff they're doing and show consistent progress and stability in undoing it, and then get it completely undone and show that they're not doing it again, I won't even consider them appropriate friend material to anybody. So they need to not only stop doing the mess they're making, but start cleaning it up, get it cleaned up, and then 6,000 years later, we can trust them. 6,000 years after they get it completely cleaned up, we can probably start trusting them again, because they did get their fair chance. A lot of people say that black people can be prejudiced but not racist. I don't think that we're prejudiced. Means to prejudge. We haven't prejudged. We judge based on what they have done. So we gave them a chance. They are judged now based on the behavior of the chance that we gave them. So we're not prejudging white people. We're not prejudiced. It's not prejudice. We're not prejudiced. We already gave them a chance. Okay. So know that they're not your friends, not necessarily, and a lot of times that these little conversations could be a setup that's going to come back to haunt you, and that's the reason why this is that I'm giving this conversation is because things I want you to avoid the things that could get you fired because you do need your job and we want you to have your job. And until the black community has got everybody self-employed and successful in their endeavor, then we need you to have your job and you need your job. So that's the end of this one, and I'm going to see you next time. Um, um, Good evening and bye.